All right, today we're going to tackle a big one. We're diving deep into one of philosophy's most challenging and maybe misunderstood traditions, pessimism. Now, this isn't just about being gloomy. It's about a school of thought that dares to ask a really uncomfortable question. What if life itself is a mistake? Let's get into it.
So, when we talk about philosophical pessimism, what are we really getting at? Is it just, a fancy term for having a bad attitude, or is there something more to it? Like a real, structured argument that maybe, just maybe, being alive isn't all it's cracked up to be? And really, it all boils down to this one super provocative question. Is life, at its very core, a mistake? Are we all just stuck in some kind of cosmic error? I know, it's a heavy thought, right? But these philosophers, they didn't shy away from it. They looked it right in the eye. Okay, and it's super important we get this straight right away. We're not talking about just having a bad day or feeling down. This isn't a mood. Philosophical pessimism is a full-blown intellectual position. It's a formal argument that says existence itself is fundamentally broken, that it's just filled with suffering and, well, futility.
So, if we want to get to the heart of modern pessimism, we have to start with the main man, its chief architect, you could say, the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. This is the guy who took all these bleak ideas and built them into a powerful, systematic philosophy.
You got to remember the context here. At the time, all these Enlightenment thinkers were going on about how we live in the best of all possible worlds. It was all about progress and reason and optimism. And then Schopenhauer shows up. He basically builds this incredible, detailed philosophy to argue the exact opposite. He was a complete bombshell thrown into centuries of happy thoughts. So how does he get there? Well, his whole system hinges on this core concept he called the will. And this isn't about willpower. For Schopenhauer, the will is this blind, irrational, insatiable force that drives everything. And it's basically a trap. Think about it. This will makes us constantly want things, right? That's step one. And not getting what you want, well, that's pain. But here's the kicker. What happens when you do get what you want? The satisfaction lasts for like a second, and then you're just bored. And that boredom just leads to a new desire, starting the whole miserable cycle all over again. There's no escape. This quote he wrote just perfectly captures his view of us. Picture it, a strong, blind man who can't see where he's going. That's our will, our raw desire. And who's riding on his shoulders, trying to steer? A sighted but lame man who can't walk on his own. That's our intellect, our reason. We like to think our rational mind is in the driver's seat, but for Schopenhauer, nope. It's just a helpless passenger, a servant trying its best to navigate the whims of our blind, powerful urges. But here's the thing, Schopenhauer wasn't just making this stuff up out of nowhere. These kinds of ideas, this deep-seated despair, it has really ancient roots. You can find traces of it all over the world in all sorts of cultures. Just look at Eastern philosophy. The very first noble truth of Buddhism is that life is dukkha, which is often translated as suffering. Think about it. Birth, getting old, getting sick, dying, not getting what you want. It's all seen as a form of suffering. This core idea that dissatisfaction is literally woven into the fabric of being alive is a pretty clear echo of what Schopenhauer was talking about. And then you've got this wild character from ancient Greece, Eugenius of Cyrene. This guy was so good at arguing that lasting happiness is impossible and that the best we can do is just avoid pain that he got the nickname the Death Persuader. Get this. His lectures on why death was actually a pretty good option were so convincing that the authorities had to ban them. He was literally too persuasive for his own good. Okay, and another really potent source of ancient pessimism comes from a group called the Gnostics. Now, for them, this world we live in, it wasn't some beautiful gift from a loving creator. Oh no, they believed the physical universe was a botched job. A flawed, maybe even evil creation made by a lesser, incompetent, or downright mean-spirited God.
So in their view, we're basically divine sparks of light that have been trapped inside this cosmic mistake. Our physical bodies are prisons, and we've been thrown into this world of humiliation and pain, exiled from our true home. It's this deep, profound feeling of not belonging here, of being an alien in a hostile land.
Okay, let's jump forward in time again, back to the 19th century. After Schopenhauer died, his work finally started to get famous. And when it didn't just get a little attention. His ideas totally exploded, setting off this massive public debate all across Germany. They even had a name for it, the Pessimism is straight, the Pessimism controversy.
For years, all the big thinkers, the writers, the artists, they were all obsessed with this one question. Is it better to not exist than to exist? It's pretty wild. Schopenhauer's philosophy went from being totally obscure to being the hottest, most controversial topic around. And of course, this whole controversy created a new wave of pessimistic philosophers. And these guys took Schopenhauer's ideas and ran with them, pushing them to even darker, more extreme places. You have people like Varn Hartman, Mainländer, and Bonzen, who basically inherited Schopenhauer's bleak worldview and decided to double down on it. Just take a look at Philipp Mainländer. He looked at Schopenhauer's will to live and was like, that's interesting, but what if it's the opposite? He came up with this incredibly radical theory that the universe started because God basically committed suicide, and all the fragments of this dead God, that's us, that's the universe. So for Mainländer, our deepest drive isn't a will to live, it's a will to death, a hidden cosmic pull towards complete and utter annihilation. Yeah, pretty dark. And if you thought that was bleak, let me introduce you to Julius Bonzen. He might just be the most hardcore pessimist of the bunch. For Bonzen, reality is contradiction, an endless, unresolvable mess. There's no progress in history, there's no escape, there is absolutely no hope. He even said tragedy is just a basic law of life, because any time you make a moral choice, you're automatically failing to fulfill some other moral duty. It's a cosmic no-win situation. Okay, so after wading through all of that darkness and cosmic despair, you're probably asking a pretty reasonable question. What's the point? Why on earth should we even bother thinking about this stuff? Yeah, seriously, what's the value here? Are we supposed to just be miserable? Is there anything useful to be found by staring so directly into the abyss? Or is this whole thing just a recipe for depression? Well, here's a really interesting, kind of counterintuitive take from the Italian poet Giacomo Leopardi. He suggested that maybe, just maybe, accepting that life is full of suffering and that chasing happiness is a fool's errand is actually liberating. Think about it. Once you stop that frantic, hopeless chase, you're suddenly free. Free to live a real, vibrant, maybe even a great life, not for what you hope it will be, but for what it actually is. And I want to leave you with this last quote from him because I think it sums it up perfectly. It suggests that maybe the real takeaway from pessimism isn't despair at all. Maybe it's a kind of profound courage. The courage to look at the very worst parts of existence, understand them, and still choose to laugh, to live fully, to find your own meaning, not in some fairy tale of happiness, but in the simple, powerful act of defiance against a world that offers none.